Hi, my name is Joe Anderson. I know I'm a little bit early, but I'm here for my 9 o'clock interview. It's with Rob.
Oh, he's actually running a little bit late today. You know how traffic is around here.
No worries. While I'm waiting, you can actually take a breath point. I'd like to. Oh, I am so sorry about that. Here, let me help out with that. I am so sorry about that.
No worries, that's totally fine. Accidents happen.
I'm sorry, I just got a call from mother. I need to be able to go and see her. I'm so sorry.
No worries at all.
Hi, I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm Joe Anderson with the 9 a.m. interview.
Joe, can I just check?
That's it. Let's go.
Rob, I don't know, these productions are getting better and better from the marketing department, but what are you looking
Do you know what I've taken away from those videos, the last couple especially, Danny? We've got some really good actors in this company.
Yeah.
Awesome actors.
Don't
And
tell them
I am
that.
not one of them.
Yeah. That's why you went in the video.
Excuse me, I lost the video. My surprised face was in video.
Oh,
Do you know my Oscar?
your Oscar surprise face.
Yeah.
Was it anywhere near as bad as
It was
my
better than
surprise
your
face
surprise face, I can tell you that.
when the drone hit the window, I know.
We've got an early question in from Avi, which is, what are we crashing into Danny's window today?
Yeah.
Just you wait and see, Avi. Just you wait and see, my friend.
No crashes today. That's the rule. So if the only thing that's allowed to crash is your computer.
Ooh, okay, deal.
So tell me what 5 days, 4 days away from Zero Trust Sword? It's no 5 days. It starts on Sunday, maybe Monday, a week it is, and it's going to be a great 3 days because the point of this event is that everyone learns and everyone understands first the risks, and secondly how can they mitigate and reduce those risks, and that's really what we're talking about for 3 days. We've got some great speakers coming in. We've got some great educational sessions, both hands-on and hands-off sessions, and of course we got a great after party with the Jurassic Park Jeep. And I think
Jurassic Park Jeep.
I've been told, and I think we've got my friend the DeLorean coming back as well here.
Oh, ooh.
Big one. So we got Ivan. Welcome, Ivan. You're here to do all the work. And Rob,
I'm the mark.
you're the mark, the classic victim.
Yes.
You do, being as though you're not, you said you're not a good actor, but you're a pretty good victim.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So we have Rob, who's going to play the victim, and me, I'm just going to talk crap for half an hour and watch Rob get abused. So what's the plan, Ivan?
So today's plan is pretty interesting. We're taking a different approach. We're going to use the bash bunny kind of like this. Ironically, I have a pineapple sticker on it, but we have a bunch around the office, so I want to distinguish mine. It kind of looks like a USB. It's a little bit bigger, as you guys can tell. But I like to think about it as a small Linux machine, and that's what it is. The moment you plug it in, you power on that machine, and it has the capabilities of using Ducky language, and it can also download common tools to Kali Linux or Debian or other Linux flavors like Metasploit, like Responder. So we can do a little bit more advanced attacks. And you can also exfiltrate data into a directory in this little thing called loot. So we can steal Wi-Fi passwords, web credentials, stuff like that. In this case, we're going to be running its Ducky Lang capabilities to disable Defender a little bit different than you guys usually see it in red teaming scenarios. So in red teaming scenarios, we usually go into the PowerShell or command line and try to disable real-time protection from there. But sometimes tamper protection is on the machine, and if we're not talking about ThreatLocker, it's tamper protection in this case.
The less good tamper protection.
That doesn't allow you to disable real-time protection from the command line. So we're going to do it from the GUI instead. So we're going to show you guys how to use the Ducky Lang capabilities on the Bash Bunny to actually disable the real-time protection manually. And then after that, we're going to launch the real attack, which is going to basically grab all the LAN profiles, the wireless LAN profiles. It's going to grab all that data, put it into the loot directory inside the Bash Bunny, and then from that point, it's going to slave my machine to a C2 server. We're actually using a proper C2 this time. Not saying ours is not proper. We've done a lot of work with it, but we're going to be using Havoc C2, and the reason for that is I just want you guys to visualize what a C2 looks like. This has it has a GUI, so we're going to be able to interact with it. We're going to be able to explore the file system within Rob's machine, and we're going to be able to do a couple other things. It's going to be really fun.
Okay.
Two interesting facts about bash bunnies. Fact number one is neither myself nor Danny know anything about them. Fair?
True. Yeah.
True.
That's
Fact number two is I've owned a bash bunny for about 2 years now. and I have never plugged it in. So this is my Bash Bunny. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
So what we're saying, Rob, is you've got as much out of your Bash Bunny as you have out the pineapples you own.
Yes, more in fact. Pineapples are negative. Bash Bunny are just never plugged it
Not negative yet.
in. Yes.
So I hear that, talking about the pineapple before we go into the attack, I hear that you're running the pineapple session on stage at Zero Trust.
Return of the Revenge of the Pineapple or something, I think it's called, yes.
So our number one goal is not to break anything, not to hit anyone with a drone.
No drones. Drones are not allowed.
No one said anything about drones not being allowed.
It's a no-fly zone. I've spoken to the hotel. There are no drones allowed.
Ask for permission. You ask for forgiveness.
No, I have a plan, Danny. It is a cunning plan, and I'm not going to share it with you.
My understanding is your plan.
What I will tell you is it is very much on brand for me because it involved me throwing a large amount of money at a problem and hoping it was going to go away. That's all I'm going to tell you.
When you say on brand, so what you mean is we're going to have a drone and
No.
It's going to crash up into a window.
The hotel, I've been very clear on this point. There are no drones allowed.
Okay.
Plus a particular piece of pineapple hardware that I may or may not have purchased yesterday is probably too big to even be like, you wouldn't carry this thing in a helicopter, Danny, let alone a drone.
I have a brand new drone we haven't used.
Why do you have a brand new drone we haven't used?
Because the last one.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
which proves it was a bad idea and dangerous as well.
Dangerous is a bit of an overstatement.
Speaking of lawsuits waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Right. I thought we'd learned our lesson after that, but yeah, I've checked with the hotel. There's no drones allowed, so we're going to go down a different route with the return of the Revenge of the Pineapple.
Okay, we'll see. Ivan.
Well, I do also have a secret
weapon. Drone in with a pineapple.
I don't know. My secret weapon may or may not be an attendant at this webinar. I don't know if he's here. Steve, if you're here, wave or send a message. But yeah, I have a secret weapon as well.
Okay, so Ivan, let's show us the first cool trick here.
Alrighty, Rob, you have your Bash Bunny with you, right?
My Bash Bunny or the Bash Bunny?
The Bash Bunny.
I have the Bash Bunny, yes.
Yeah, so we put some payloads on the Bash Bunny, and I want to explain a little bit about its functionality. You guys see this red little switch here? So this basically allows you to store 2 payloads. So this last bracket here is called switch 1. That's payload 1. Right in the middle, that's switch 2. And then all the way to the USB-A side is what we call arming mode. So it basically acts as a USB. You can connect to it. You can, it's like a D drive. You click on it, you can access all of its files, and you can exfiltrate data from there. But today we're going to exfiltrate data remotely. We're going to do something a little bit different, but it does store the data on the Bash Bunny. So Rob, can you actually put it all the way to the farthest end from the USB-A side, which is switch 1, sorry.
Yes.
Nice. So now can you share your screen so we can actually see what's happening on your machine? And after this is all done, I'm going to show you guys the payloads. I'm going to go over the actual script that we did. Nice. Perfect. Okay. So you want to put it on the right switch and then you want to plug it into the machine.
I will do that. It's a USB-A connection. So what's the bets that I get it wrong first time round? Yes. Got it wrong first time round. Okay, here we go.
It's a small connector all the way to the back. Yeah.
I'm just surprised at everything that's
going to turn green.
I'm just intrigued about this. So we're saying that tamper protection doesn't stop you turning off your antivirus via the switch.
Yeah, via GUI. There we go. So it actually triggered that time. So tamper protection, if you manually do it through the GUI, it won't give you any issues. Now, if you do it through command line or PowerShell, then it will stop you.
So what it's saying is, it's just stopping automated
methods. Yes.
Exactly. Yep.
Is this finished doing stuff now, Ivan?
That's done. So that's payload 1. We split it off into 2 pieces just to make it more digestible for you guys. But we can run this in, linearly off of 1 payload, just make it much faster.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you go to Windows Security, you'll be able to see real-time protection is off. We disabled cloud protection and I think file submission. We just don't want Microsoft snooping around with one of our executables that we built to actually connect the machine to our HAVC2 framework. So now, Rob, put it onto the second bit. You want to show Windows Security?
It's not really working.
No, it's not, but it is very much disabled. You can see here. Okay.
So at this point, Rob, you're going to go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So I'm going to slot number 2 now.
Yep.
Okay. Anything special? Just plug it in and hope for the best.
Plug it in and just wait. Same thing. Yep.
Okay. Is there a USB-C version of this?
I don't believe so, no.
Ah, it's not going to work on my
Oh,
laptop.
Steve is here. Sorry, yeah, my secret weapon is here.
Okay. So here it's going to
actually
be,
see the tamper being disabled is a question by James Johnson, and I think the answer to that question is yes.
all right, guys. So it's not done yet. Give it a little bit more because now what it did, I just got a connection on my Havoc C2 framework and it's telling me that I've connected to your machine. So now I have control over your machine now. But now we're going to go into PowerShell and we're going to exfiltrate the wireless LAN profiles off of the machine and we're going to store it in loop.
So I just want to be clear, as of right now, we're essentially using this as a really, really powerful ducky.
Yeah, that's exactly how we're using it.
Okay.
Ducky with processing, I think, would probably be a better way to describe it.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You can actually run stuff on it as opposed to just type
So
commands.
I stored an executable, which is the executable that allows me to connect back to Havoc. I stored it within the Bash Bunny, and then I'm actually mount it onto the C drive and run it. So at this point, Rob, the payload's done. I have a connection. Do you guys want me to actually go ahead and show what the payload looks like on my end?
Yes.
Okay, I can do that. Perfect. Okay, so you guys can see here, authors, the version is 1. We just started working on this. So this basically tells us to do the, basically set the light to setup. So that's when you actually see the green light pop up. It puts it into attack mode, similar to a ducky. And every time you see quack, you basically know that it's running ducky lang. So this actually opens Windows Defender. You guys can see it opens up Windows Security. Then it looks for virus protection. We set up some delays there so we can actually tab into the right spots. And then we basically just disable real-time protection. It's pretty straightforward. And then we Alt F4 just to exit out of the Windows Security application. Payload 2 is a little bit more advanced, but we just basically set the location path for the Bash Bunny. Then going down a little bit, we actually bring the executable into the C drive, and then we go ahead and run it. Then we set up some delays. As always, we kill PowerShell. And then after that, we start our second phase of the attack, which is exfiltrating the wireless LAN profiles. And from here, we create the directory for loot Wi-Fi pass, which I'll show you guys what that means. That's basically the Wi-Fi password stored in the loot directory that I was talking about before. Once again, we go into attack mode, HID, and storage. So in this point, it's like a twin duck mode. If you guys are familiar with that, it'll act as a USB and it'll act as a ducky at the exact same time. And basically, this is going to get all the network profiles. And then after that, it just grabs them and stores them into the loot directory. So you guys see here. And then we just delete the networks.txt file. So it's not in there anymore. It's not present on the actual machine. So that's a brief overview of the payloads.
I just have a question here, Ivan. Do you have any issues with using certain payloads? Is the question. It's coming from LinkedIn. And what sources do you extract payloads from?
Definitely. So the Bash Bunny we've seen, I'm pretty sure this is where the question is going. A lot of the payloads that have been built for the Bash Bunny are 4 years old, 7 years old. So what we do is we kind of just validated through a lot of payloads. It took a long time, but we went through a couple that were common, not as old, 4 years, 2 years old. We actually saw what worked, what didn't work, and we kind of picked and picked everything together until we came up with our own payload. So at the end of the day, with the Bash Bunny, since your payloads are so old, you kind of have to just write your own thing and just test it through, rigorous validation and see if they actually work. But our payloads, we usually extract them from the Hack5 payload repository on GitHub. But like I said, you kind of have to just modify them. Just things have changed a lot, and they're not as reliable as they used to be.
Okay.
A couple of questions in the Q&A. So James Johnson is asking a user see the slam protection being disabled. The answer to that question is yes, as you can see from the screen share. Jeffrey Rodriguez has asked, are USB-based attacks common in enterprises and SMBs?
That's an interesting one. So common, not the attack, but the foothold. I wouldn't say it's common. So most attacks are coming more from a user opening malware. Where they are more common is companies that have front offices or car dealerships, hospitals are very, very vulnerable to them, and they're definitely more common. And definitely bigger companies that are bigger because they're more likely to be able to pay. So the cost of delivering a USB attack is obviously substantially more than sending 1,000 people an email saying, hey, download my cool video, and then getting onto one of the machines. With a USB attack, you have to plan, you have to go in, you have to gain access. car dealers, hospitals, stores, hotel chains, all of which are attacked. And typically an attacker is just going to do what Ivan has done, which is create a reverse shell of some description to a command and control center where they can deliver payloads later on.
Just one or two others. So Avi has asked, would it have been successful disabling the Windows security components if the user didn't have admin privileges or GPOs preventing disabling of the security?
Nailed it. No, they wouldn't have been able to disable it if they didn't have admin privileges.
Exactly, yep.
So
James
another reason
Johnson
you should
asks
not
a
let
similar
your users have admin privileges.
Yeah, James Johnson asked a similar question. How are you able to run admin prompt without admin credentials or bypass MFA? So basically this user is an admin. If USB access is disabled via GPO, will this still work?
Yes, for the disable Windows thing and the reverse shell, but not for what that you ran an executable from a USB drive, didn't you, Ivan? That part will not work.
Yep.
And Jeffrey has asked, how easy is the setup for the USB attack device? I think Ivan's pretty much gone through it. It does require a bit of knowledge to actually do the scripting, but funnily enough, you can actually ask ChatGPT for Ducky script and Bunny script and whatever you want, really. Okay, sorry, that's all the questions. Do you want to show us your C2, Ivan?
Yeah, definitely. That's the next phase. I wish I was able to show it as Rob was connecting, but we'll see the post effects, I guess you can call them. So here we have a Havoc C2 framework. This looks a lot better. Here we have Event Viewer on the right-hand section. We can see the connections that come in, the users that authenticate into our actual server. I had connected a machine previously just for testing, but here we can actually see a table, and you can see the ID, the external IP, the internal IP, the user. Actually, I can go into a better view here so you guys can visualize this. This table is showing machines, and these are two machines. It's interesting, I can actually interact with these machines. So I can go over to Explorer, I can go to File Explorer on Rob's machine, and I can actually enumerate all the files in his directory.
And this is because you have a reverse shell on the machine.
Exactly. This is because we ran that executable that connects us back to the Havoc framework, which is essentially a reverse shell, yeah. Just with a little bit more bells and whistles, I guess you can call it.
Okay. Stupid question. I presume that would probably be picked up by Defender had we not disabled it.
Yeah, so this one would be able to be picked up by Defender, but I created a version 2 days ago that bypassed Defender. So there's still you can still bypass Defender. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of hours to actually craft but it wasn't even an executable. I did it via DLL injection, using a law bin called mavinject, which should have gotten flagged, but since the DLL didn't get flagged, it just ran right through.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
So the next phase of this is showing you guys process lists. So we can actually list the processes on the machine. And we can not only do that, we can also interact with the machine. I'll show you guys a process list here. So we can see all the processes that are running on the machine. I'm looking for Zoom specifically. Yep, so here we have 3 processes that are running Zoom, and we can actually copy the PID. And then we can also go and interact with that machine. And we could do like shell calc.exe, and Rob's machine should actually show a calculator.
That's very much just open calculator.
Yep. And then we can also, something that's really cool, we can go over here to interact and we can type in screenshot. And yeah, it will take a screenshot. So if we go over to view, we go over to loop. From this point, we can show all the screenshots. It'll show up here. This is not Rob's desktop. We'll see it once the screenshot actually processes. It takes a little bit to actually run the screenshot. Here we go. So this is what Rob's machine looks like. I can take screenshots of it.
That bit is scary.
Yeah, it is pretty scary. And you guys remember I did say we were going to exfiltrate data. Let me show you guys this. I'm just pulling my payload from here.
Oh no, don't take my data.
So we're actually going to take the Wi-Fi passwords off of the machine. Oh, that's not the right one.
Just out of curiosity, did you connect to our main Wi-Fi here on that laptop?
No, I connected to the guest Wi-Fi.
Okay, just checking we're not about to broadcast.
We're not just leaking our, yep.
Because there's a drone flying outside my window and I'm not sure what it's doing there.
So actually, if we go to File Explorer and we go to the D drive, we can see that loop directory that I stored my data into. So if I go here, it'll take a little bit to enumerate.
Oh, I filled it out. I shouldn't have plugged it out.
Oh no, yeah, but it's
Oops.
actually we can show it off of viewers. You
Will
can
I
just
put it on to number 3 and plug it back in?
yeah, plug it back into number 3.
I can do that.
So while he's doing that, Ivan,
Yeah.
the Bash Bunny also has the ability to run Metasploit internally.
Yes.
And it's running a Linux machine. How's the Linux machine getting access to the internet? Because you can connect directly to that Linux machine.
Yes. So you can actually latch on to the internet connection that you're connected to on your victim machine.
Okay. And it will just latch on automatically, will it?
No, it will not latch on automatically. You have to specify the wireless LAN profile.
Okay.
Yeah, via ducky script. That's the via the scripting.
Okay, so you need to do the ducky script to get you on there. Then you can connect to that, and then you can scan the LAN using Metasploit without having to install it on the victim's machine. Is that
You
accurate?
can. It's an older version of Metasploit. Like I said, it's a little bit older, but you can still get that to work. Yeah. Even you can actually get Nmap scans as well. Nmap is native to the Bash Bunny. Well, it's not native, but it's compatible with the Bash Bunny.
So of course, if you plug a rubber ducky into somebody's computer, you can get a reverse shell, and you can do all sorts of bad stuff on the machine. Then you don't the difference between a rubber ducky and a Bash Bunny is very little. But if your endpoint is better protected, so maybe you've got an EDR on it that's looking for things like Metasploit and looking for IP scanning tools, it's obviously not viable to do that, because as soon as you start doing those bad things are going to pop up. But with the Bash Bunny, you can essentially just have the minimum connection, which is, hey, I'm just going to get myself a Wi-Fi connection, which shouldn't trigger the EDR. And then I'm essentially on your LAN, and I can scan your network for devices. I can create a map. I can run Metasploit. I can scan for vulnerabilities and various other things. Is that accurate?
Yep, that is accurate. Yep.
Okay.
Drive should be reconnected, Ivan.
Okay. Try to bring it back here. Explorer.
And somebody has asked, can it grab keystrokes?
No, so we can set it up to be a keylogger. We can run it. The power of it is you can run external executables or compiled, Python scripts with a PyInstaller or such. So we could create a keylogger, and then we can embed it in the C drive, and then we can start exfiltrating data. So,
but essentially, that's doing that by putting the keylogger on the machine.
Exactly. So the capabilities of it are not keylogging. Does not natively keylog. I'm gonna go over to Rob again. Here we go.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
So we click on loot, and then I went back to the C drive. Let me go back to D drive. There we go. Wi-Fi pass.
Which is empty.
Give it a second. There we go. So we have TL0321. So if we go here, let me run a quick. I saved the command because I didn't want to type it all in. Let's go back to interact.
Is this a bit where we should get ready to stop sharing Ivan's screen really suddenly in case he shares something he shouldn't?
I mean,
you don't delete those pictures, Rob.
0321. If I'm not wrong, is that the actual name? TL0321. Yep. .txt.
There's a computer name, but look at it. It's victim. And what are you doing here, Ivan?
So here we have the Wi-Fi passwords. I'm extracting the Wi-Fi passwords remotely off of that machine. So I'm accessing that loot drive, and I'm actually.
Yeah, whose iPhone Wi-Fi password is that? Because the guest password gets changed, but whose is the iPhone one?
I have no idea. I didn't connect my iPhone to that. Somebody's iPhone password just got leaked.
So that's one of the victim machines.
Yeah, that is one of the victim machines.
Yes.
Not mine, anyway.
Not mine either.
Yep, not mine either. I didn't even know it was connected to the iPhone. I was just given that victim machine earlier today, but.
So we got another couple here. So Stephen says, so the Bash Bunny doesn't have Wi-Fi. You'd have to set up ICS within Windows to get the Bunny online. It does have Bluetooth though. Lewis has asked how to protect against these type of attacks.
So it's not a single attack. So I think if we look at what's happening here. So step one is we've plugged in a Bash Bunny and we've disabled Windows Defender. Good hygiene, not having local admins. is going to stop that from happening. Making sure your users aren't local admins, setting GPOs, restricting, using ThreatLocker. You can use configuration managers to set those settings to prevent people disabling things that they shouldn't do. Step 2 is it created a reverse shell. Now, in this case, we used a reverse shell using an executable file, and this one would have actually been detected by Windows Defender, but most reverse shells are not detected by Windows Defender or any EDR that we've tested. So step 2 is stop untrusted software. Stop things that aren't allowed to run. If you use allow listing, if you block untrusted software, the reverse shell can't create. But then an attacker could also do a fileless reverse shell using Redshift, RunDLL, CScript, PowerShell, any of those other tools. So limiting what those tools can do, limiting their ability to go out to the internet is very, very vital. Also assume that something's going to run and something's going to compromise your machine. So limit what everything has access to, period. If you take away users' abilities to access things they don't need, if you take away applications' ability to access things they don't need, you harden your environment. So this isn't a case of how do I stop a bash bunny? It's a case of how do I stop all of these other attack metrics? And a bash bunny is a cool tool that you can plug in and looks gimmicky. But equally, if we just get a user to click enable macros in an Office document, we could have done the same thing. So there's other ways of getting into these systems, and they're all using the same methods. They're all either sideloading DLLs, they're using executables, they're using PowerShell commands, and they're using basic tools. So the trick is to harden your environment to begin with. Take away admin permissions, stop untrusted software, limit what applications can do with ring fencing, just generally have good detection technologies in there. So when something does happen, you're alerted on it. So if data's being exfilled, it alerts you. You can isolate, you can do things like that. It's just general good cyber hygiene will stop these attacks from happening. Also train your users, make sure your users are aware not to plug things into their computer that they don't know what are. It's not going to reduce your attacks by 100%, training your users, but if you can get it down 50%, it's worth it.
Jeffrey's asked a question. This is probably an Ivan question. How long can the foothold remain active before being detected?
So it really depends on how you execute it. This one is running off of the executable, but I don't have the script on this one, but there's scripts on there's actually an extension.
Service.
Forever. Yeah, so
especially if you're a local admin, because you can create a service, but this one's gonna go away once you reboot the machine.
Yeah, actually, but the cool thing about Havoc is we have an extension that allows you to auto persist. So if you have a payload that you can it allows you to manually install an executable into the startup folder. So every time you start up your machine, it'll call back and connect. And as long as the executable is on the machine, I'll have a connection back. The moment the executable is gone, obviously it gets flagged by Defender. I won't have a connection. But if I went that step ahead and I implanted my executable in the startup folder or another registry pass or win logon or something like that, we can continue to persist on the machine and the connection can be ongoing. But natively, it's only once. Yeah.
Question. I think I know the answer to because I've seen you do this before. But Agnel has asked, from what I understand, is that you can have a logged in user get access to the system. Can you use brute force user login and gain access?
With the Bash Bunny, or does he mean
Yes.
in general? Well, yeah, with the Bash Bunny, yeah, we actually have. There's a script that I showed about I think 3 months ago. It wasn't on a webinar, so a presentation, and basically what I did was I used Nmap on a machine with a SMB port open, and then I basically just tried to log into the SMB server since it was an older SMB server. I mean, SMB doesn't really have a password protection on some versions, so I just kept brute forcing that until I got into the user, and then I just programmed the Bash Bunny to do that. And then when I went to switch 2, it would actually text out the password that it found off of the SMB server, and then I got access to the machine. It's not as sophisticated. Well, it's a bit sophisticated, but it's not as easy to pull off unless the password of the user is pretty simple.
The just on that, couple of things that you can do. So you mentioned dropping it in the startup folder. So 2 ways you can persist. You can set up an application as a service, which requires you to be a local admin. So setting up as a service is much harder if you take away local admin rights. The other way you could persist is drop something in the startup or in the run registry keys. A little tip, if you are using ThreatLocker Ops, you can actually add the policies from our community to automatically detect those behaviors. To your point, Ivan, about to the question, how long can you go undetected? A reverse shell is essentially an RMM tool. It's a software deployment tool. So the answer is forever. Like it's unless you go and talk to a bad IP address or you do something that is really suspicious, it's very hard for an attacker to detect a reverse shell on a computer. And quite often they're sitting there for months. Things you can do to obviously stop them is using tools like whitelisting and ring fencing, but to detect them better, I'll look for things like, hey, did it get dropped in a startup folder? What is in my startup folder and why did it just appear? That is an indicator of compromise that will allow you to see that something bad is potentially happening to gain persistence on the machine. Now, if you have the device left plugged in and it's a physical device, that's a little bit harder. But if those kind of things can help you detect those threats easier, but also attackers often sit 6 months in a system. And what they'll often do is, even if they can't gain persistence on that system, they'll move around, they'll switch out files. One of the tricks I used to do was switch out Excel files to executables with Excel icons. And when you open the executable, it would regain that foothold and then deliver the Excel file. So the user would come in every morning and open their documents because they didn't know the difference. It looked the same to them. They hid file extensions in Windows, and then you'd keep getting persistence as they open their documents. So there's other ways of getting persistence too, but it's very, very difficult to detect persistence from an application that uses regular API calls, that talks to the internet on 443, that only talks to servers in the United States. It's very hard to detect those things because they're no different than any other application you have. When they do something bad enough, then you can detect them.
Couple of other quickfire questions. So Paul has asked, is this only pulling shared key Wi-Fi passwords, or can it grab WPA2 with X8021X passwords as well?
Oh, it's only grabbing the saved passwords that are on the machine. So if the machine has connected to a SSID, it basically it stores that key. That's the only thing we're pulling off. If you forget it, it's no longer on the machine. So it's not that advanced. It's just pulling off the profiles and the passwords that it already knows. Nothing.
We had an
out of the
interesting
ordinary.
one at Zero Trust World last year, and I think this was a ducky. It exfilled all the Chrome save passwords.
Yeah, yeah.
So that one was a little bit scarier than the Wi-Fi passwords, because Wi-Fi isn't nearly as scary as Chrome
Yeah.
save passwords.
William has asked, when it uses HID mode, does it switch to that, or is it connected as both mass storage and the HID device simultaneously?
It's both HID and mass storage, yes.
Cool. Lucy Reed says, sounds to me like someone needs to make a 5G Super Bunny. I don't know what a 5G Super Bunny is, but I kind of want one because it sounds cool.
They do need to come up with a new version of Bash Bunny.
It would be a really good idea, actually, to put a SIM card in your Bunny. And then you can connect to it from anywhere without having to use persistence on the LAN. That sounds
Lucy,
like...
it sounds like you've got that.
Sounds like an OMG cable mixed with a Bash Bunny. That would be
Super
deadly.
Bunny might be coming to a, I don't know what near you. Jeffrey Rodriguez is obviously a very wise gentleman, because Jeffrey Rodriguez has said application whitelisting is key to prevent these footholds to initiate these attacks.
Good job, Jeffrey.
Stephen, also
very
a very
true.
wise gentleman. 100% agree with Danny. The Bash Bunny automates keystrokes, being storage, and exploits devices' desire to network. Controls around those mechanisms can render the Bash Bunny inert. Absolutely.
And you have to accept that sometimes bad things are going to happen in your environment. Controls is the best way, whether it's dual factor, stopping untrusted software. That's the best way to accept that I might get phished one day, but I've got dual factor. So you're going to have to steal my phone as well. I might get duped by a Bash Bunny, but you can't run any untrusted software. That is the way to secure your environment. And that's what we're going to be speaking about a lot next week at Zero Trust World, but we're also going to be showing you cool stuff about what you should be stopping.
Stephen mentioned as well, there's a payload called Jackalope that can do just that for the Bash Bunny. So this is the password cracking. Sounds like it's what I was describing. He also mentioned they did a 3G version of the Land Turtle, which is kind of the same thing. So apparently the 5G Super Bunny used to be. And by the way, interesting fact, Land Turtle, another piece of Hack5 kit that I've got in my hacking kit that I've never plugged in or done anything with. Yogesh, can Bash Bunny get access for the keystrokes or just for malware things? And it can pretty much do anything, really.
Yeah. Under the right circumstances, it could do a lot of things. Yeah.
Lucy said, that's what I mean. Yes, a bunny with a SIM card. And Jeffrey, could the Bash Bunny gain access to the remote servers of the affected device connects to? Could it gain access to the remote servers?
You mean is it able to send out calls, like network calls?
I am
Yeah,
not.
I would assume so.
Well,
If latch,
I guess what it's asking, but if it's able to work through the LAN, yes.
yes.
So it can do an RDP scan of your network.
Yep.
Again, tip, network control, dynamic ACLs, because it's going to have its own IP address. It's not going to share the IP address to your desktop. Use dynamic ACLs. So when someone gets onto your LAN, they can't see or scan your network because it will just show all the ports are closed.
Yep.
I heard a great story from one of the SEs recently. A customer had a pen tester in, and they brought their pen testing device into the network, and they could see nothing on the network because they'd enabled NAC, network control. Sorry, Nick. Nothing was visible on the network. They were like, "You're cheating." It's like, it's not cheating. This is security.
Yeah, I love it when they say you have to turn off ThreatLocker before we.
Sorry.
I'll give you the passwords as well. They're written down here.
Yeah. Your guest has asked, if we're end mapping for closed ports, can it be accessible through Bash Bunny? Any chances?
In mapping through closed ports. I mean, you can. The closed ports will come up on your network scan, but if they're closed, you can't really interact with them other than that. But yeah, if you do your Nmap scan, you will see filtered ports, open ports, and closed ports. I mean, it really depends on how you're running your Nmap scan and the syntax you're using for the actual scan.
David, joined late. Is Bash Bunny USB physical access only concern? Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the Bash Bunny physical access is the only concern, but all of the things around it, there's a million other ways to
actually put it on a machine.
put it on a machine. The Bash Bunny is just another cool way of actually getting close to the user and without having to get them to do something. The reality is you email 100 people an urgent update in the best trained company in the world. 5 of them are going to try and run that update or tell them to click on a link and download this. 5 of them are going to do it. And the bottom line is, unless you've got one employee and that employee is really, really smart, that at some point someone's going to get into your environment, whether it's through
that employee never gets tired, never gets distracted, which may lead us into something else we want to talk about. Can ThreatLocker not only lock the ports down, but also act as an alert system that if the machine sees scans happening, that ThreatLocker Ops will notify an admin? He's answered his own question. ThreatLocker Ops will notify an admin that a port scan is occurring.
See, he even said the product name for us. So the
answer said the product name. I only realized that I was reading down through his question.
Yeah, so
your own question, Abby.
You can go in and you can say with ThreatLocker Ops, you can say if this happens, if X number of ports have happened, you can add scores to it. So you could say, hey, if one port gets hit, I'm going to ignore it. But if this port gets hit, then I'm going to create an alert. I'm going to notify an admin. And you can even say, is it denied? Is it allowed? So if it's an allowed source, you might give it a lower score. And then you can create alerts on that. And then when you get those alerts, you can see everything that's happening in one central place. So you can see all of the executions, all of the deletes, all of the moves, all of the file access, all of the elevations, and all of the network access, both inbound and outbound, in the one place. So you can see if anything else is suspicious. And of course, if someone has compromised your machine, which they shouldn't have done if you've got allow listing and ring fencing and network control properly configured, then you can press a magic button that says lock down the machine, and it will basically cripple the entire machine. If you want to find out more about how ThreatLocker helps, how ThreatLocker Ops helps, or any of our products, whether you're a client already or not, you can click on the, I thought that was a Booker demo. Is that a Booker demo? No.
Yeah, that's a Booker demo. The last one.
Oh, no, the Booker demo is coming. The second one, that's they're both Booker demo. I'm not really sure. There's a link there to Booker demo and see more details about ThreatLocker, and an engineer will walk you through how it all works. Another cool thing is if you haven't already got tickets for Zero Trust World, there's a coupon code coming. Is there a coupon code, Rob? You said there's free passes, yes?
Apparently so.
Okay, so there is.
So I'm told. Sorry, just on the subject of which, and while we're talking about that, Yogesh said, is there any chances for getting training by you guys? Love the Bash Bunny things.
So on our hacking labs this year, we won't be demonstrating.
Zero Trust World,
yeah, Zero Trust World, the hacking labs, we won't be demonstrating Bash Bunny. We'll be having a beginner and advanced class for the rubber ducky, and we'll be having a flipper class, which is extremely interesting. And already, like, we're on the subject. Can I talk about a little bit about the ops class that we're doing with the incident response?
Well, I'm gonna, before you do, Christopher Walsh has asked, do you know if there will be in-depth sessions for ops and configuration manager at Zero Trust World?
100%. If it's okay with you guys, can I share something on my screen? It's already publicly It's a
Yes,
brief
you can.
overview of it's a brief overview of one of our classes that I'm going to be hosting, which is called Incident Response with ThreatLocker, and we're going to be basically putting out a fire. We're going to have a scenario in which basically a company put their machines in monitor mode without even noticing, and then they got hacked. And we're going to go through a simple incident response playbook. We're going to go through all of that. We're going to create a report, and we're going to see basically how ops allows us to make our job easier by already showing us alerts for things that are malicious and that were happening on the machine, and how useful it is for cases like incident response. So we're going to be showing you guys how to use ThreatLocker Ops, and we're going to be showing you guys how to use powerful tools such as our unified audit to detect malicious behavior. We're going to be going over persistence, the registry key changes, as you guys see here. And I have a list here of the most common registry keys used for persistence. So we're going to be learning a lot about that, and we're going to be running through a simple playbook in incident response. So we're going to be those junior threat hunters or incident response incident responders, better said.
So
Okay.
Christopher, that's a yes.
Yes, that's one of the sessions. We also have boot camps. We also have training camps. You can get ThreatLocker certified on site. And if you do pass your cyber hero test, I promise you, you will not be able to pass if you do not study before you leave, or you can have really dull and miss all the parties. So do your studying on ThreatLocker University before you leave. You do not have to be a client to go through ThreatLocker University. I think I'm right in saying that. You can just sign up and learn all of the product, and you can do your cyber hero test. But we're going to have deep sessions. We're going to talk about whitelisting. We're going to talk about ring fence. We're going to talk about how to stop 0 days. And we're going to talk about the threats as well. And of course, ThreatLocker Ops being the big news at the moment. Now, the cool thing about ThreatLocker Ops is if everything else is done right in ThreatLocker, it should be the most useless product we sell. But if it's where it becomes very useful is when you don't do everything else right. So it's because it is really detection for where you did get hit, or at least you're trying to get hit. So, hey, someone tried to scan this port. One of the use cases, I used my rubber ducky exfil script, and ThreatLocker blocked it. And then I got an alert saying, hey, someone's trying to exfil data using on your machine using PowerShell. And I said, oh, that's not good. Let me go and slap the user for plugging a rubber ducky into their computer. But registration is still open. I think there's about 40 or 50 spaces available as of last time I checked. So if you do want to register, remind it, if you do pass your cyber hero test on site, you will get a refund of your ticket. So, okay, I think that's everything. Rob, Ivan, thank you. It was very easy.
Thank you, Ivan.
Just sat there and watched.
Have a good day.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.